I think lots of people are unaware of how public policy and how racial attitudes that we're all steeped in, how those things have shaped our built environment.
I think it's a signaling in society that says that we've gotten to a point in time where the way of doing business has to shift, that it can no longer be business as usual, because business as usual has left a lot of folks behind. How do we sort of change the dynamics that result in wealth building for all, in better education for all, and that people of color are not segregated or left behind to have the small remnants, but that they can fully blossom and bloom in a society that sees them as whole and human, and that whatever their dreams are, they can be manifested and they won't be held back because of the color of their skin.
I was particularly interested in UrbanPlan because I saw it as a vehicle for going into high schools, in particular in Philadelphia, and being able to model for them what a real estate developer does, that there are jobs in the real estate industry and that there's a role for them in the real estate industry. Our goal was to create a program which could feed the real estate industry with people who weren't coming from a privileged background and be participants in it. And I saw UrbanPlan as a key tool in the whole idea of increasing diversity in our industry. The whole point of UrbanPlan is to put yourself in other people's shoes. If you're going to be able to do that, you have to have your eyes and ears open. And what DEI training is intended to do is to help you open your eyes and ears to things that we're not really taught to understand.
I think it's important for them to understand and look at this training so that the lens in which they then engage with the participants is one that's sensitive to the issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because especially after this racial reckoning year of 2020 that we've had, we have to start to acknowledge what the issues are, especially the systemic challenges of racism that have left communities of color behind. And we're talking about real estate and development, which is an industry that is predominantly composed of mostly white folks, mostly white men who are leading this charge. And so if you're going in to deliver a program, especially in a school that's full of little black kids, and there has to be an understanding and a sensitivity to be able to communicate and leave an impression that says to these students that this is a path for you, even though at this point in time, if you were to look at the pictures, you don't see yourself. Or also it's a wonderful opportunity to recruit volunteers who look like the population so that when they're interacting with the students have an affirmation that says, that is a path that's available to me. That is a path that I can take.
I think diversity, equity, and inclusion training is really important for the volunteers because it allows them to understand things and see things from a different perspective, to recognize that there may be some bias in the way that we speak and engage with people. And so being able to recognize that can support a more inclusive environment in the classroom.
As you probably know, you don't tell UrbanPlan students anything. You suggest to them Socratically by asking them questions. We in the industry tend to forget how much assumed knowledge that other people might possess who aren't in our industry. And so you have to be very clear and speak to them in non-technical terms about the things that you want them to be thinking about.
I didn't really understand what they were saying at the beginning because they're professionals, so they were using big words in order for us to understand. I'm like, can you break it down just a little?
What does it feel like to be in the space that you just created? And who's occupying those spaces? And what do those people look like? What do they do? How much money do they make? And if they make this much money, can they afford that space that you're creating there? So they're really just leading questions that get them to think about the composition of the form, the composition of the occupants, and then later on to start thinking about the money.
The volunteers are essential as guides and facilitators. And the wonderful thing about the volunteers, they're convene in the conversation, but they're not directing it, they're not leading it, they're not influencing the decision of the teams that are formed, but they're there for reference. So they're not the drivers of the work. The people participating in the process end up being the drivers of the work.